Hello and welcome to Hindsighting, where we discuss all the movies to win the Best Picture Oscar and try to figure out if this picture truly is the best, or is time rendered a different verdict. I'm Edward Clow. My guest today wants to say that while he is a guy named Scott Frank who works in TV and has an Emmy, he's not that Scott Frank who works in TV and has an Emmy, the much better known creator and writer of The Queen's Gambit. This Scott is an anthropologist who has worked in TV for over a decade and got his PhD writing about how what we see on screen influences what we believe about the world in real life. So, this Scott Frank, thank you for joining me.
Of course, pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Today, we're hindsighting the best picture of 1982, Gandhi. From 11 nominations, it also won Oscars for Best Director, Best Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Editing. It was nominated against E.T., Missing, Tootsie, and The Verdict. So, Scott, I think the 80s is an incredible decade for movies.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of these Best Picture winners and nominees don't fully represent that. I think what was going on in the 80s, I mean, you and I lived through it.
Yeah.
But I think even if you were born after that and were looking back at it, I think it's still evident, at least I hope it is for someone younger. I guess they can tell me. But I think what's so incredible about the 80s is that every genre was strong. Horror was strong.
Yep.
This, I think, is the best decade for action adventure, hands down.
Yep.
I would say ditto. This is the best decade for comedy, for me, hands down. I think this is a very strong decade for drama. We're going to be talking about a lot of dramas today. And I think that what's incredible is that all these movies were from major studios. Major studios were putting out things for adults, for kids, for ages in between.
Yeah.
And independent movies are going on, but they don't cross over till right at the end of this decade with Sex Lies. You still have Spike Lee and Jim Jarmusch. They are making movies in this decade, but they're really just figuring their voices out and they're ascending. Do the Right Thing is right at the end, and it is distributed by a major studio, Universal.
Yeah.
It's a small movie, but it's still major studio is still behind it.
Yeah.
So I guess what's your take in general on the 80s in movies?
I mean, obviously, again, I'm a child of the 80s, one would argue. So I love them. The movies in this year in particular, I mean, I looked at the list of movies.
Very strong.
Every one of not every one of them is a banger, but holy moly, like so many of the movies that I think of as my favorite movies came out this year.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, do I think the 80s are incredibly strong in all those genres and all those things because objectively it's true, or because I am inclined to like movies from the time I grew up? For example, there was, I believe it was an actual study not long ago on what SNL cast people think is the best ever. And they showed a very clear distinction. The SNL cast you think is the best is the one that was the cast when you were in college. Now, it's true for the 2020s. That's true for the 1990s.
Oh, really?
It's true for the 80s. So everybody thinks, the cast that was on when they were young and maybe watching it, young people probably watch it less now, thinks it's the best. So there's a question of whether is the 80s truly the best in the ways I think it is, or is it the best to me, but maybe not objectively? And obviously I can't answer that because I'm only me.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the 80s in particular is that when people think of 80s movies, they think about, there's a very, Stranger Things was sort of 80s nostalgia sold to the entire world, even generations that weren't around then. And I like that show a lot. But somebody had said that they were worried that 80s nostalgia was being sold to younger generations and that there would be a backlash. And I think the thing about the 80s that's untrue of any other decade is that when you think of an 80s movie, there's really two things that are going on. You think about, at least I think some people would think about like John Hughes, pick any John Hughes movie, maybe like Karate Kid, things like that, things that are sort of teen-centric. And there's some incredible, great movies within there. I don't know that people necessarily think about Raging Bull or these really adult movies that were going on. I mean, the 80s, I think, are looked at as unserious because it comes between the 70s, which many would argue is the greatest decade ever.
Yeah.
I'm putting that off in this podcast for that reason.
Yeah.
And the 90s, where you had great studio movies and independent movies crossing over.
Yeah.
And I think the 80s is a fantastic decade. I think my thesis for this second season, this is only the third Best Picture one that we're covering, but I brought this up on Ordinary People and I brought it up on Chariots of Fire, is I don't know that the Best Picture winners and the Best Picture nominees represent, or at least fully represent, what's going on. And I think another debate that's
Well,
sort of endemic to this show is, do we need more than 5 Best Picture nominees? We currently have up to 10.
yep.
I go back and forth on this. I think a lot of years in the 80s, obviously we're doing an entire series in 1981. I would
Yep.
argue that there are more than 5 movies that should have been nominated that year.
Yeah.
I'd say this year we're talking about today, 1982. I've seen all 5 of these nominees now.
Yep.
And I think this is a year that can clearly have more than 5 nominees.
Absolutely. Now, I will say, we're talking like, are these reflective of the state of movies and things like that? And I absolutely agree. But one thing to keep strongly in mind is, just like the Grammys aren't saying what the best song of the year is, the Grammys are saying what the best Grammy-style song of the year is. And I think there's a concept, and we've all heard it, it's an Oscar movie, and that's in quotes. Like, the Oscar doesn't say what the best movie of the year is. It says what the best Oscar-style movie of the year is.
Right.
And that's a different category. What will win an Oscar and what will be nominated is a specific style of movie usually. Whether that is arguably the best kind of depends on also what you like the best. People who like slapstick comedies will never get an Oscar-winning movie. Yeah. Like, they just aren't.
Well, you brought up a watchword that I talked about in my preview episode, and I've talked about however many episodes we're up to at this point. The lack of genre diversity in the Oscars, even to this day. I think if you talk about genre movies that have won the Oscars, we covered The Departed, which I think is a genre movie, and that won, but that also has an A-list director and a really megawatt cast.
Yeah.
And Michael Prince and I talked about how if that were a young unknown director and like sort of a lesser known cast, that same movie does not get nominated nor win Best Picture.
Yeah.
I do think a few things have punched through. I think maybe, and we'll talk about this whenever we cover this episode, I think maybe the least likely Best Picture winner ever is The French Connection, which is
really,
yeah. I mean, that's pure genre. I mean, that's an open debate.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not. Great movie.
It is. I'm not declaring that to be the case.
Yeah.
As I work through all these movies, but that movie to me, because something like Parasite, which I think has a lot of genre elements, there's still some veggies because they're talking about income inequality. Great movie.
Yeah.
I'm not at all taking that away, but I think there was something for Academy voters to be like, oh, well, this is about income inequality and it's about a foreign country and it's even though it's a thriller with even some horror elements, I think that was like the veggies they were able to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was done. I'm not saying that Bong Joon-ho, tailored his movie that way to win Best Picture. I don't think anybody was thinking about Parasite winning Best Picture, which is why I thought it was such a great moment.
Yeah.
But I think pure genre movies, there are very few that win. I'd say French Connection. I'd say The Sting. I'd say Silence of the Lambs.
Sting is a genre. I
mean, it's a con artist movie.
Yeah, I get it.
It's a con artist movie.
I haven't thought about it, but you're right.
Yeah, it's a con artist movie.
Yeah.
There's no social agenda in it.
But again, like the stars were at that time mega.
Yes.
So to me, that to some
like The
degree
Departed,
makes it not a genre movie in a weird way.
It's I mean, an all-star cast kind of deflects it, but yeah, we could debate this all that long. But we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of movie.
It's a long movie today.
Yeah, so let's move on to Gandhi. But first, some stats. So the Indian government provided 1/3 of this movie's budget. This is kind of a silly one, but Sir Winston Churchill and Charlie Chaplin were mentioned in this movie, and Sir Richard Attenborough, who directed this movie,
Lord Richard Attenborough.
Is it Lord?
He's a lord. He's a baron.
Oh, okay.
Sir Ben Kingsley, Lord Richard Attenborough.
All right. Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dick. Lord Richard Attenborough directed biopics of each of these men on either side of this. So he did Young Winston in 1972 and Chaplin in 1992, respectively. In the DVD commentary, Lord Richard Attenborough mistakenly says that Ian Charleson died of cancer. This is not the case. Charleson died of an AIDS-related illness in 1990. He was the first mainstream British celebrity to do so. Upon his death, Charleson requested that the full cause of his demise be made public in order to bring greater awareness of the disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kind of a Rock Hudson thing there, huh?
I guess. I didn't even know he was that famous. I know who this actor is. We're going to get to him in just a second.
Yeah.
This is not a surprise, but I just love this. Filming took 12 months and used up to 23,000 feet of film.
Wow.
It does feel that way.
It does. It's
Yeah, we'll get into it.
I mean, there's an intermission.
There's an intermission, which I love.
Yeah.
I love intermission.
It was so cool. I mean, these days, it's, obviously, I don't know if you're talking about the length. It's 3 hours and I think 11 minutes.
Yeah, we're about to get to that.
But like these days, so many movies think that they I swear, like Iron Man 3 thinks it needs to be, 3 hours long. You're like, no. Gandhi gets 3. I'm not sure you need that.
Yeah, well, length. There's a big length.
Yeah.
There's a big length and editing narrative on this podcast.
Yeah.
So we're about to get to it. This is the first film in 16 years to win Oscars in both Best Picture and Cinematography, with the previous one being A Man for All Seasons back in 1966. This is the only Best Picture nominee this year, also to be nominated for Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Makeup. Ian Charleston, who we just talked about. This is a stat I absolutely love, and I actually, this is like a little bit of an obsession of mine. So this is a stat I think I kind of uncovered, and we're gonna see if this gets beaten or debunked.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Charleston, Sir John Gielgud, and Richard Griffiths are all in this movie, and they all appeared in Chariots of Fire, which was the previous Best Picture winner.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time that 3 actors have been in consecutive Best Pictures.
Wow.
To my knowledge. A bunch of guys have done it twice. Russell Crowe was in 2, Guy Pearce was in 2, Clark Gable was in 2. That might not be it, but this is 3 actors in small parts that are in 2 Best Picture winners back to back. I would love, and as I go through this, I'll kind of see.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because the stat that I had just listed Charleston and Gielgud, but as I was watching this movie, I recognized Richard Griffiths, who I saw on stage in London, I hasten to add.
That's cool.
And I was like, wait a minute, this guy's in Chariots of Fire. And so I added to that stat. We just covered this, but at 3 hours and 11 minutes, it is number 90 in ascending length, the Best Picture winners. Number 91 if you count Sunrise, which we'll litigate if that counts in a later episode. It is number 41 on the box office list of Best Pictures with a worldwide gross of $127 million.
Is that adjusted or not adjusted?
Not adjusted.
Oh.
Yeah, these are not adjusted. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, let's get into the movie. So you had never seen this either.
I had never seen that.
Yeah, so this was one of the ones, I want to kind of start with, I guess kind of a mea culpa, is when I thought about doing this podcast for years before I finally started to do it. And there were 2 movies that I won't say dreading, but that I was sort of like, oh, fuck, I have to watch these 2 movies. One of them I already covered, which was The Lord of the Rings, because I watched all 3 Lord of the Rings movies to prepare for the third one. I'd seen the first one, but I'd never seen 2 or 3.
I remember we talked about that years ago, and I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm like, what? But many people have not seen that.
Yeah, you might not like that episode then, but it's, but the other one was Gandhi. Not so much because of the length. I mean, I've seen longer movies than this. I'm not a snob about length.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought this movie was going to be so boring.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to report that I am stunned how engaged I was in this.
100%.
Yeah. Did you have a similar...
I mean, dude, you contacted me. You're like, come on my podcast. I'm like, sure. You're like, you're gonna get Gandhi. I'm like, oh, mother puss bucket, really?
No, you did jump at it though. I said no, because I remember this.
I've never seen it.
No, but you said you said I never saw Gandhi, and I said, okay, you're doing it.
Yeah,
because I actually, I mean, you're bringing me right to one of my points. I thought this would be a hard episode to kind of cast, to find somebody to sit in that chair.
Yeah.
I really thought I'd have to find, somebody from like the Indian government.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that Gandhi is insignificant. It's just that, like, I think this movie in a weird way, because I entered this, I talked about at the beginning of this season that the Best Picture winners, a lot of which I haven't seen. There's 3 this decade that I haven't seen. I hadn't seen Chariots last week.
Really?
Wow. Not last week. I hadn't seen Chariots of Fire and knew nothing about it.
Wow.
And
good movie.
Yeah, I was surprised by it in a different way. And Gandhi I had never seen, but Gandhi I avoided.
I'd say the same.
I always said, I'm only going to watch Gandhi if I ever do a Best Picture like project. I'm never going to watch all, but however many there were back then.
Yeah.
And again, this podcast, I'm going to be watching all 90, it'll be 8 by the time this one comes out, maybe, all 98 of these movies, a lot of which I'd seen. When I started, I'd seen 65. This makes 68. So I've only seen...
You've seen that many.
Thank you. Well, I've only seen 3 new ones.
Yeah.
This, Chariots, and Lord of the Rings. As far as ones I've never seen before.
Wow.
Like new experiences. Some of them I haven't seen in 25 years.
Yeah.
Some of them, a few of them I know kind of by rote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. Yeah. So one thing I noticed, I guess this is the first thing I wrote down. I don't have to do all my notes, but the first thing I wrote down was, it said Richard Attenborough's Gandhi. I was like, wow, his name is above the title.
Yeah.
He was correcting me for calling him
he's Lord.
Sir, not Lord.
I don't know if he was a Lord then.
No, but I'm saying, like, I know he made, Richard Attenborough was an actor. And another stat I didn't mention, this is the third best director winner in a row to be an actor, because he's preceded by Beatty and Redford.
Wow.
I mean, Attenborough kind of dropped acting. He shows up in Jurassic Park, which we'll get into about 11 years later. But it's still an actor, so this is 3 movies in a row directed by actors, which I think is interesting. Even though he's not in this movie.
Yeah.
Although he could have been like any one of these, like, there's a lot of old men in this movie.
If he didn't make this movie, you could easily see him being in it.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
This is such a murderer's row of British actors, and I have a lot of people I want to like just mention. Yeah, so I guess that, I don't know what my point is. I just thought that, like, oh, his name's above the title.
Yeah.
And I guess no one knew who Ben Kingsley was.
Okay, and can I say, just because we're just starting to talk about the actors, something about Ben Kingsley in this movie, just in the outset. So I came into this movie, did not see it. I've seen Ben Kingsley my whole life, obviously.
Me too.
I thought I knew him. But one concern, I'm like, man, did they whitewash the role of Gandhi? Like, Gandhi's played by a white guy, like even in the 80s, I would have thought. And then, of course, I look up Ben Kingsley and I find out, which I did not, he's Indian.
Yeah, his
birth name is Krishna. His father was Indian. I'm like, well, that's a load off my mind because I'm like, oh my gosh, did they put it? But they didn't. Dude is Indian.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I read in the research, this I couldn't believe. I believe it, but I can't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know who they were talking about to play this part at one point?
Tom Selleck.
No, well, it's an actor who's going to come up in this podcast just in this year. Dustin Hoffman. I don't know.
I mean, he's little, I guess.
Yes.
Gandhi was short.
I don't know how far that got. I don't know if, like,
wild.
He was attached.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
But though, of course, Dustin Hoffman in one of the other nominees.
That's what I'm saying.
Year.
We're going to be talking about
Tootsie.
him. We're going to talk about him later in the show.
Wow. Can I talk about what I thought about Ben Kingsley's performance in this movie?
Yeah, go ahead.
He won Best Actor.
Yeah.
He may have been the best actor I can remember. He killed it. So he's astonishing. I mean, astonishing. Like, he's the best actor. He's playing Kingsley. You know he's great, and you know he's in this movie, and the movie's great. And you watch it, and he inhabits it. Like, it looks like you're watching a documentary footage of Gandhi. And then at the end, you realize he's kind of walking, and he's hunched over because Gandhi's old, and he'd been through a hunger strike. And you remember in the very beginning of the movie, he's a young, spry man. Like, the physical transformation he does in the motions, the action, like portraying a young man versus an old one. And I mean, Ben Kingsley he's a year older, but he's not, 70 years older. It's incredible. His performance is incredible.
I agree. We're going to litigate his Oscar win at the very end of the show. That's part of the format where we'll do that. But yeah, unto itself. Ben Kingsley is one of those actors, and I think I mention this all the time, who's somebody we kind of take for granted because they work so much.
100%.
And I think it's really fascinating because I remember when Sexy Beast came out. Remember that movie?
I do. I saw it. I didn't super love it. But I got why people did.
Well, Ben Kingsley's Oscar nominated for that.
Yeah.
He plays just a vicious, mad dog, snarling, nasty British gangster in that. And a lot of sort of the obvious commentary about it was, he was Gandhi and he was in Schindler's List. I mean, he played Meyer Lansky in Bugsy, which he's also great in. But Meyer Lansky, at least that's portrayed in that movie, he's definitely a gangster, but is very gentle and very, he's obviously like a bad dude.
Yeah.
But the Meyer Lansky is more stately in that version of him.
Yeah.
But Ben Kingsley is one of those actors, he's in a ton of things. He's in a ton of like big things.
Yep.
And he's in a lot of things that you could point to that aren't good. But he's like a working actor. I mean, it's the same thing with Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Gary Oldman, I think, is like maybe the best actor of that generation.
Yeah.
But, but the more he works, you don't have control over all the movies he does. He gets spread kind of thin, but then he kind of snaps back with Slow Horses, where he's fantastic in.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, this is true of kind of like all British actors. I think the great British actors, because we put them in everything, we start to take them for granted.
Yes.
Even though Ben Kingsley gets the Academy Award for this.
Yes.
I think it's his, I don't know if it's his first movie, but it's certainly his first lead. I mean, obviously they surround him with a lot of good British actors. People just in and out of this movie. I mean, this movie is on his shoulders. And
Absolutely.
It is epic.
Yes. So what you're saying is Ben Kingsley is the British Gene Hackman. Because that's how I feel about Gene Hackman.
Hackman is a great example because Hackman,
Working actor.
Yeah, especially when
Shows
Hackman, he died about a year ago. And I think Hackman is a great example because Hackman, I would argue, one of my guests kind of took a little bit of umbrage with this. I would argue that Hackman is probably the most natural actor. Like where everything he does, you believe it, even in like shitty movies.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, yeah, he is that guy.
Yep.
Because he looks like a dude you just see walking down the street.
Yep.
He's not like, I can see some women finding him attractive, but he's certainly not like matinee idol handsome.
Nope.
And he's definitely part of that generation of, this dude would only be a movie star in the 70s. But even after he stopped being a movie star, he was still a reliable actor. And you would class up your movie, by having Gene Hackman in it. And he was always present, with the exception maybe Superman 4. I'll give him that one. How fucking present would you be in that movie? But yeah, I think Hackman's a great corollary. But I think it's,
he's just good in everything. That's my stance on Gene Hackman. Good in everything.
I agree.
And I've seen some crap movies of his, but he is not the crap. He's good in everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
So
he's to be dignified in bad movies is kind of the test of a great actor.
100%. 100%.
To just be like, okay, well, this movie's bad, but they're not embarrassing themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of talk about something in a loop. So I didn't know. I knew this movie was about the life of Gandhi, and I assumed it was going to be kind of almost womb to tomb. I mean, we meet him when he's very young, and but I didn't know this felt almost kind of modern. That the movie was going to open with his assassination.
That was wild.
I was like, oh fuck,
yeah, flashback movie. And here's this mega embarrassing part: I did not remember Gandhi had been assassinated.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
My
I
knowledge
just didn't remember any of that.
This is gonna come up a lot, so I'm gonna
Let's
flog myself
foreground
now.
it. Yep.
I'm gonna flog myself now. I was unaware of a lot of the historical events in this movie.
Yep.
Or if I'd learned them, I'd forgotten them. We're gonna get to one later on that is abhorrent. I think you know what I'm talking about.
That's the only one I knew about. The partition and the violence around the partition is the only thing that I was familiar with.
We're going to get to
Indian
that.
History.
We're going to get to that when we get to it. But yeah, I did not know, or if I knew, I forgot. I didn't know that he was assassinated, and I thought that was such a almost modern way. You know what it reminded me of? And this movie's all over. It reminded me a little bit of Lawrence of Arabia, how we see Lawrence die in the beginning, but he dies in a fucking motorcycle accident.
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, well, Sunset Boulevard, but talking about historical.
Yeah.
I mean, Lawrence of Arabia, I think, is a real lodestar for this movie because it's a huge epic.
Yeah.
It's about one guy's life.
Yep.
It's British as fuck, despite never setting foot in Britain.
Yep.
And
absolutely agreed.
But thing with Lawrence, though, and this isn't a spoiler because this happens literally in the opening 2 minutes of a very long movie. Peter O'Toole, as Lawrence is on a motorcycle in England and he gets in a motorcycle accident, he gets killed, and we see his funeral. And what's the irony is that you're about to learn that this guy was such a great warrior and he dies in this kind of ludicrous way.
Yeah.
And I think this was on Attenborough's mind, at least in terms of how he structures this movie,
absolutely.
Is that we see Gandhi die and then we see his funeral, and you can get a lot of exposition because you see, I don't know if you noticed the white American actor who was the newsman, sort of like
Martin Sheen, you mean?
No, earlier than that. We'll get to Martin Sheen. There's a guy named Shane Rimmer, who's an American actor who's in a ton of British movies. He's in 3 Bond movies. He's in Superman 2. He's got a big part in The Spy Who Loved Me. He pops up in Batman Begins.
Is he the guy who's with Sheen in the car when they're covering like the Salt March?
No. This is like literally the beginning. He's just an announcer. He's like, hey,
oh, that guy. I do know who you're talking about. Yeah. I do know who you're talking about.
I think he's an American expat. But when he popped up in Batman Begins, I'm like, oh, Nolan, that's not an accident. Nolan put him in there on purpose. Nolan always does that. The biggest role I ever saw him in is he's in 3 Bond movies in like very small parts, but he's got a huge part in The Spy Who Loved Me. He's like the American submarine commander with Bond. That's like he's in like a third of that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love that movie. I love all Bond movies.
Yeah, I know. I was just excited to see him.
Yeah.
So then we jump to
most Bond movies.
Yeah. Then we jump to this scene of we flash back to Gandhi on the train.
Can I cover one more thing about
Please.
the assassination that was interesting to me?
Please.
So it opens with the assassination, and because it's the first 2 minutes of the movie, you have no context. You don't know who the guy shooting him is. Not in the sense of you don't know the character. You never know the guy's name or anything like that.
But you don't know
You
why.
don't know what faction he is. You don't know why. And here's the other part. By the end of the movie, you kind of still don't know.
That's interesting.
I had to look it up. I'm like, who? It was interesting, but they don't explain it.
Who was he?
He was a Hindu extremist.
He was an extremist.
So
I didn't know from what
he
side.
was a Hindu extremist,
Right.
who would, in theory, be on Gandhi's quote unquote side.
Right.
So, but they don't talk about those Hindu extremists generally. A little bit at the very end with the partition, but you see the assassin go and kind of get the nod from his higher up in whatever group they are. And the guy gives him the nod, but those people don't appear in any other part of the movie. There's no strand telling you who they are.
Right.
This is not a critique. It's just
it's interesting though.
It's just kind of interesting. You see him killed at the beginning and the end of the movie, and you don't really know who those people are or why, which is, again, fascinating.
Yeah, sticking with the assassination, I was going to move on, but I shouldn't have. I wrote down something that didn't work for me in the beginning, but then when it looped around, it did work. When he gets shot, Gandhi says, "Oh God." That didn't work for me in the beginning, but when it looped back around and it's on black, it kind of worked for me. Did you bump on that? Or
no, I didn't.
Okay. It was just something that it wasn't like laughable, but I was like,
Sorry, is it the continual is it the reference to God, which are continuous throughout the movie?
It
was very. I mean, he was, assuming the movie is factual, and I have no reason to doubt it, an extremely religious man, but kind of broadly religious. I mean, he talked about he's Hindu, but he talks glowingly about other religions, and the belief in God seems to be more important to him. Again, assuming than a specific religion's belief.
Yeah, I mean, the Ian Charleston character is a minister, and then there was somebody who was Jewish later on because he's got a
he's wearing
Jewish star.
A prominent mug and daven.
And he mentions at least a couple times, Christians and Jews. So the picture they're painting of him. I want to be careful to say.
Yes, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, because I did come across some research that felt that this was a bit of a whitewash, not in casting, but that they felt that Gandhi was misogynist and that they felt like, that he was not so. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but there are people who do not think that this movie, it's like hagiography. Am I using that right?
Yeah. No, that's the proper term. I would say, and again, like a black friend of mine is like, don't look up what he said about black people when he was in South Africa freeing Indian people.
Right.
But all of his stances on that seem consistent with who he is in this movie and his morality. They all do seem to stem from the moral stance he clearly takes throughout his entire life.
Right.
So you can't, to some degree, I don't think it's incorrectly portraying any of that.
Yeah.
So, and a hagiography is whitewashing it. I think it doesn't touch on those. They're not per se germane to the story that they're telling.
Yeah,
so I get it in that sense.
No, yeah, I'm not equipped nor inclined to attack this movie in that way, given how little I knew going into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's you mentioned when we flash back and we see him young and on the train. It's just so jarring because not only are we seeing him young, we're seeing him with like a full head of hair.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah,
full nice head of hair,
and he's in a suit.
Yes.
and he's not. Because at a certain point in this movie, he gives up clothing, traditional clothing.
Yes.
There's even a scene later on where he's encouraging other people to do the same thing, where they're burning.
Yeah.
Like just a mound of like
British-made textiles. They burn all the British-made textiles.
Right, and so like the physical transformation in this,
it's insane.
Is really insane.
Incredible.
And yeah, I like a line. I mean, there's just so much to get. I like this line where he's in South Africa and he's giving that speech. I think the man's name is Khan. He said, "You write brilliantly, but you have much to learn about handling men."
Yeah.
And I think that
that guy, by the way, also great. They're all great parts. Everyone in this movie is good.
Yeah, this movie does have an incredible cast.
There's no stinkers in this movie.
Well, it's interesting. I wrote this down. I don't know if you knew. Did you know that Daniel Day-Lewis was going to pop up for 2 minutes
I
in this
did.
movie?
You see me like, oh my gosh, you're there.
Well, I don't want to make this about him.
Idea.
I only knew because I heard another podcast where they did like a retrospective in his career, and it was every piece of film and they said, oh, he's a small part in this. So I knew it was coming. I didn't know when, but it was funny because it's what 90 to 120 seconds of Daniel Day-Lewis flawless South African accent.
Perfect. Of course.
So much screen presence.
He Daniel Day-Lewis's the hell out of that, like 1 minute.
Yeah, and you have to wonder. I don't know if anybody in 1982 was watching this movie and thought like, that kid's gonna win 3 Oscars,
Yeah.
and that kid's going to become the greatest actor.
I didn't think about Christian Bale and Empire of the Sun either, I don't think.
Well, but Christian Bale's the star of that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different thing.
The other guest star moment that I laugh and you smile because it's kind of so hilarious, but they're both fine in it. John Ratzenberger and Candice Bergen.
Well, Ratzenberger's looped.
They what?
He's looped. It's not his voice.
Oh,
Which is
really?
So it's unless I'm nuts, I don't think it's
Could
his
be.
voice.
I was just focused on the two of them pull up in a Jeep. You're like, and by the way, I will say, so happy. Not the Candice Bergen per se, though I love. She's great. Margaret Bourke-White is possibly my favorite photographer of all time in the annals of photography.
Oh, really?
And so I'm so glad she had a decent sized part where they covered her time.
Yeah, I knew she was in this
amazing.
movie. I knew she was in it. I knew Martin Sheen was in it. And Martin Sheen must have.
He looked great. Man, he was handsome back then. Holy moly.
Yeah, he's like 40, 41. Yeah. I mean, it's like Martin Sheen. Yeah, it's like pretty, like not long after Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Or even, it's only a couple years after
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now. I knew they were in it, but Martin Sheen has to have the oddest and most glorious record of Best Picture winners to be in. He's in this and The Departed. Like, that's just such like, wow, those are two very different movies. And I've covered both of them now. So I've now covered all the Martin Sheen Best Pictures that I'm aware of, unless he's got a small role in one I'm just not aware of. But yeah, I knew that Candice Bergen was in it. Well, I mean, we're kind of talking about it. Let's talk about it. There's a lot of actors in this that because this movie is so epic and it's going through so many years and it's such a revolving door of people in and out of Gandhi's life.
Yeah.
And there's very few that stay there.
Yes.
But it's really, I think by design and by necessity, it's really about this one guy. And I think it's kind of incredible that they decided to just go with the best actor who was unknown. I'm sure he was known in London. I don't know if he was a stage actor.
Stage guy, I think. I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his like mid to late 30s. He's not super young.
No.
And it's hard to tell because he's aging so incredibly with the help of makeup and everything else. But yeah, the fact that they build, the fact that they trusted just the best actor, and I think not for nothing, the fact that a third of this is covered by the Indian government, and I mean, Columbia distributes the movie, but they probably picked it up. They didn't put this movie into production. I think they probably bought it.
That sounds right.
So it's easy to look at the movie and say like, oh, this could be interesting. We'll distribute it, which is no small thing. But I think the fact that, I mean, the Indian government should finance this movie.
100%.
It's about one of their heroes.
Think about how much I learned about Indian history from this movie,
myself included.
It's incredible. So
yeah, and it's not.
I hope it's all correct.
Even though it's a British production, but clearly, yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if today. I wondered a lot watching it, even though I liked it. And we'll get into more of that. I'm wondering today. I mean, I think a Ben Kingsley would still be cast because he's ethnically appropriate.
Yeah.
I wonder what the outcry would be of a white British director doing it. I'm not saying I have any problem with that.
What's his name made Slumdog Millionaire?
Well,
I don't think anybody
we covered
about
Slumdog Millionaire a few episodes
Yeah.
ago, and I don't remember an outcry then. That's only 2008.
Yeah.
So I think if you have a sensitivity, you can do it. I just know that Norman Jewison was going to do Malcolm X, and Spike Lee raised a ruckus because he felt a white director should not be doing it.
Yeah.
And also he wanted to do it himself.
Right.
And I don't know that a Norman Jewison, I definitely would not have liked the Norman Jewison Malcolm X better. So I think that's one of the great biopics of all time. But I wonder if today there would be, if they were announced this movie, like, oh, they're doing the story of Gandhi, assuming it had never been done before, and a white director's doing it.
Yeah.
Do you think that'd be an issue? Do you think I'm being overly sensitive? I don't have an issue with anything I'm seeing in this movie.
I suspect today, who knows, it would be okay. Gandhi is such a worldwide figure, I would almost say at this point. I think that there's a few people that it's covered and that are of such a level of fame and such an importance in world history that they're kind of considered belonging to the world. Maybe that's
I like
correct.
that answer.
Maybe not. But I think I think it would be okay.
Okay, I like that answer.
If, as you said, it was done with sensitivity and everything.
Which I think this was.
Yeah,
I don't
100%.
I think it's weird because this is 2 Best Pictures in a row, this and Chariots, where, you know, it's British. It's a British production, but it's highly critical of Britain. You know, in Chariots it's more subtle because in Chariots it's you know, it's a British cast and you know, but
it's not making the Brits look super great. They're shown as, you know, clearly racist to some degree.
Yeah, and we'll get to the more even more egregious things here. I mean, it's possible, and I think Michael Moskowitz made this point about Chariots of Fire, that the modern British government, we'd be talking about Thatcher now, would look at this as like, oh, well, that's in our past. The way that Americans might look at something like, even something like Vietnam is like, oh, well, that was terrible, but we didn't do that. That was our fathers, our uncles and stuff. You know, like there's a detachment, and that's a much shorter time period. You know, Vietnam is obviously more recent to this than the events in this movie. I can only assume that a lot of things that Gandhi actually said are put in this movie, but there's a lot of things that are said in scenes that, like I wrote down at some point, I forget where it is. I think it's kind of early in the movie. He says, "I'm prepared to die. There's no cause I am prepared to kill."
Yeah.
You know, or to kill. I don't know if I fucked that up, but
yeah,
he's constantly making that distinction. There's another one I wrote down. He says, "They will have my dead body, not my obedience."
Yeah.
You know, I think the movie is very concerned with showing nonviolent resistance, but how violent that could be.
Yes,
for the resistor.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is things I knew about Gandhi. I knew about nonviolent resistance. I knew about the hunger strikes. I knew, of course, what he looked like. You know,
because of that Bork White photo, we all know what he looks like.
Exactly, and also the famous quote, which is said here: "If everybody does an eye for an eye, the whole world will be blind."
Yep.
I fucked that up, but like but when he says it, I got a chill. I was like, oh my god. I mean, I guess the only thing I can really ding this movie, not the only thing, one thing I ding this movie on, and it's like kind of a small thing, when he's traveling around India, seeing the country, which he says, I don't know that well.
Yeah.
I don't know India.
Yeah.
India's got...
Because he's been living in South Africa.
Right. What does he say? It's like 300 million people, or is it more than that?
Which now, of course, it's the most populous country in the world.
Yeah, is it really?
Yeah, it surpassed China.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What's the population of...
I don't recall.
So there's more people in India than there are in China.
Yes, as of a year or two ago, I believe.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, if I have any listeners in India, this pod might pick it up. Welcome to hindsight. Yeah, I just think this movie's... Anyway, sorry, to stick with my point. So he's going around India, which I think is very beautiful, and obviously they shot this in India.
Yes.
And
sense of place is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean...
Gosh, how can you even talk about it?
Yeah, I mean...
Sorry, continue later.
I felt that the montage on the train went on a little too long. I felt that there was a
I felt that, but...
there was a slightly more... This movie wins an Oscar for editing, which we'll litigate later on. I felt there was a slightly more dynamic and efficient way to get through that. I mean, I don't know if that's quite the style of this movie, but like, just to this popped in my head right this minute, like, there's a montage on a train in Slumdog Millionaire, and that's thrilling. I mean, that's these two little boys like conning people, and it's got the MIA going. Totally, these movies couldn't be... Maybe it's not fair to compare these two movies because they're both in India.
Yeah.
But I'm going to compare both these movies because they both take place in India and both won the Best Picture Oscar. So I'm going to make that comparison now.
Look, if there are two movies that both took place in whatever, Liechtenstein, you'd be like, how odd. Both these movies took place in Liechtenstein.
Absolutely.
We'll compare them, so it's fair.
Yeah, so we talked about Ian Charleston a little bit in our opening.
It took me a minute to realize where I knew him from, of course.
Yeah, well, I had just seen... I didn't know him from... Because I had just seen Chariots of Fire like last month for the first time. Yeah. But because, you know, so he plays a minister, and I like that, you know, he's sort of preaching on Gandhi's behalf, and people are walking out of his church.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting, and I think this is like a thing that a modern movie would sort of fuck up that this movie gets right, is pretty soon after that, Gandhi says, you know, you'll always be in my heart, but you need to leave.
You gotta go, yeah.
And I feel like a movie made even 10 years ago or less, this preacher character would be a bigger part. And he would get the only Oscar nomination. He would get Oscar nominated, and the guy who played Gandhi wouldn't. That's a little bit not the movie's fault.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, they would try and make this like a 2 or 3 hander of like, and this white guy who was here.
And I'd originally wondered if in actual Gandhi's life, that person, I won't say character because it's the actual person, had that big a role, or if they increased it so that the largely white audience who was watching it would feel he was there in. So that was my thought when he shows up and he's in so many. He's next to Gandhi all the time. Like, so was he really this important in the movement and to Gandhi, or is he there because they want white people watching it to feel like they have it in? And then in the movie, he tells them you have to go away so this can be Indian, and then it's full Indian. Like, it's amazing. It's an incredible handoff. And I still to this day don't know historically, is that correct, or was that a choice made? I have no reason.
I think obviously the British and white people are involved in this story, and I think Attenborough's very smart to cast all these great British actors of varying degrees of fame. But there were just so many times I was like, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but it's like you see like Ian Bannon, you know the actor Ian Bannon?
I'm sure by sight, but not by name.
He's not a name people know, but I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about very quickly an Ian Bannon performance in a movie I think everybody should know. And it's something I will eventually cover on this podcast in a different series. Ian Bannon was in a movie called The Offense with Sean Connery that Sidney Lumet directed, and is absolutely astounding in that, as is Sean Connery. And he's also in The Hill with Sean Connery, also directed by Sidney Lumet. Nice. I believe he was Oscar nominated for something. I can't think of what it was. His role in this is pretty small. He comes maybe in the second or third hour. But there are just a lot of actors that pop up in this. I think your point about sort of giving an audience an in, I think that's why Martin Sheen and Candice Bergen
100%.
and John Gielgud on the other side of the pond. I think there's a lot of like, okay, I know what I'm asking of you. I'm asking you to, I'm asking a largely Western audience to spend time in a part of the world they don't know anything about.
Yep.
They might not want to know anything about. And I think that Attenborough really strikes a really almost perfect balance of
fantastic. Look, that preacher character is in the essentially almost from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And he's there, and if that is the purpose, he's the white audience is in.
Right.
And then about halfway through whatever part of the
sooner
movie,
than that, it's really early.
He I'm gonna say halfway through when Gandhi tells him you should go to Fiji and continue work.
Yes.
And that character leaves. That's the handoff. At that point, you've been in the movie for an hour. You're committed. You don't need a white characters you're in anymore.
I think it was very deliberate. I think handoff is the perfect way to phrase that.
It was very well done.
Very deliberate, and I'm sure there was pressure either internally or externally. I'm sure Attenborough was sort of saying like, okay, let's
let Gandhi be Gandhi.
Let Gandhi be Gandhi, but let's also put some sort of guardrails on this movie so that we can guide the audience into this world. Because I mean, it seems like really almost moronic to say this, but this movie really does put you into this world. And the world I'm talking 100%. About is just India.
Yeah.
And we're rarely in a big city. I think there's like one scene toward the end where he's in Bombay or Delhi or someplace like that. But like we're seeing, because somebody says, I think if people say like, there's at this point in history, there's 350 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point in history, it's about the population of America now is what was in India, 80 years ago, 80, 90 years ago.
Yeah. It's palpable. The feel of this movie being shot on location is India. I don't want to say India's a character because I hate that kind of term and phraseology, but it is so important. It's, again, cinematography, I'm sure we'll talk. I guess we can't keep saying we'll talk about everything later. We'll never get to it. But
there's a category. We'll talk about all this.
It's incredible. Every piece, and I'm sure you saw also largest number of extras ever shot in a movie. Like if they need a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people.
Is that true? Is that an actual stat?
300,000 extras is what they said, the largest amount in any movie ever.
Oh my God.
You feel it.
I feel it. And what's so funny? My father always said, every time I watched a movie or we watched a movie together, my father, and we saw like a big crowd scene, my dad always said, I like a lot of extras. But we talked about this on our very first episode. We talked about Gladiator, how in the first Gladiator, they had 3,000 extras in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And then my guest Joe Russo felt that in the second Gladiator, which I hadn't seen, it was like CG. But this, there was no CG. Everything's
real. Everything's practical. And there's a feel of everything being real. And you can't replicate that to some degree. Not just because of the technology level or how sharp things look, or you replicate the same guy 1,000 times, whatever.
Right.
Because actors react to actual things in their environment.
Yeah.
And if you're in an actual environment,
Yeah.
you're going to move. Everybody does. You're going to move, act, think, hear. Everything's different than if you're in a place where everything is added later. There's just a palpable feel to it. Yeah, I don't know what you say. There's a palpable feel of reality to it, a verisimilitude that you only get because it's all done there for real.
Yeah, and I can only imagine, not knowing the man, but I can only imagine that Ben Kingsley standing up in front of, if what you say is true, 300,000 people.
Mm-hmm. It must be a total, not one scene.
What's that?
It must be a total through the movie, not one scene.
Oh, okay.
It has to be, right?
Oh, right. It can't be. Okay,
I'm imagining, but yes.
Yeah, you're right. But so 300,000 extras in this movie total. Yeah, okay, but there are scenes in this movie like where a train rolls up. And
tens of thousands of people.
Tens of thousands of people.
Clearly.
And we know this couldn't have been fake because CGI. We are 3 years away from our first CGI shot in a movie, Young Sherlock Holmes. That's the first CGI image we ever see in a movie.
Glass Knight, right?
What's that?
The Glass Knight.
The Glass Knight in the stained glass window. Very good. I got the right guest. But so we know just by virtue of when this movie was made that they could not bullshit replicate fake the humanity, the amount of people, and the fact that the Indian government 33% subsidized this movie. That I think people, and those aren't actors, a lot of them. I imagine those people are just people. Those are just people who lived in those villages, lived in those cities.
And look, it's also, again, it's a great choice by Attenborough, if that's what it is. You see very few British people. Now, there were, who knows how many British people were living there, but it was certainly many. It was more than the 20 that you see in this movie, but you don't see them because that's not what the movie's about. The only Brits you see are policemen, generals, viceroys. This movie is about the people of India, and so that's what he shows, and it's absolutely the correct choice the way it's done. It's fantastic.
I want to get to something that's a little bit embarrassing for two reasons, so I'm going to fall on my sword again. So an actor I really like, Edward Fox, shows up in this movie. You know Edward Fox?
Again, probably by sight.
Okay, so he is, I think his name is Dyer. He is the one who shows up to massacre.
Yes, that guy.
People.
I do know exactly what you're talking about.
So when I saw him, and he happens to have a part in one of the movies I'm watching for this podcast that I watched called The Dresser, which is the Best Picture nominee for next year. But I've seen him in, he's in a lot of stuff. Very, very well-regarded British actor. When I saw him, I don't want to say I laughed, but he has such a, I think, deliberately absurd. He's got like this mustache and he's very straight. And I think he is supposed to be absurd. And I did not know what was coming because I did not know about this incredible massacre that comes. And so I felt, I don't know if Attenborough, I don't know if anyone had that response to seeing, not of the actor, it was just physically, like when that guy came up in the truck, I'm like, oh, I think he is sort of like poking fun at like how ridiculous this, but the fact that this guy is a stone cold psycho, because I
suspect that's just how that actual human looked in real life.
I agree, but I think he is making the point. Well,
he's a cartoonish villain, is that you're saying? He's portrayed
cartoonish in what he does. I think when he rolls up, I think my first thought was, and the casting of Edward Fox, who plays a lot of he's in Attenborough's movie, as is everybody, Bridge Too Far, you know that movie? The World War II movie.
I haven't seen it. But
it's not as good as this. It has. You want to talk about insane cast? If you read the cast of that movie, you would think you were just looking at a alphabetical listing of actors who were alive then.
Nice.
It's like James Caan, Sean Connery, Robert Redford, Anthony Hopkins. Christ, who else? Ryan O'Neal. On and on and on.
Damn.
Michael Caine and Gene Hackman are both in that movie.
Wow.
That's the one they're both in.
Wow.
They don't have a scene together. But on and on and on. But anyway, so Edward Fox is in that movie, and he plays a very like stiff, like, more heroic in that movie, British, that's World War II. So when he rolled up, I kind of was like, oh, it's Edward Fox. I'm like, oh, he's playing this really, I guess I was expecting more of a comedic turn from him. And then 2 minutes later,
you don't realize how bad it's going.
I was like, I'm like, okay, we've seen these people get hit with sticks and we've seen all this other stuff, but I did not know about this massacre, and it's obviously horrific. And there's an image which sounds manipulative, and maybe it is, where you see pretty much a baby
by the dead body. Yeah, that's awful.
And
awful meeting.
The day
people jumping into the well to escape and them shooting the well.
People jumping into the well to escape and then shooting the well. I mean, Probably only goes on for like 90 seconds, but it feels like 2 hours. I think that's on purpose. And it, you know, I have to admit, when I finished the movie and turned on my phone, I found out about what happened in Minneapolis
Yeah.
and what's been happening in this country for a year. And it felt, I mean, it's one of the many, many ways that this movie felt relevant, but this is the most stark way. And the scene that follows where Edward Fox, I think his name is Dyer. I'm just going to call him Edward
Yeah,
Fox.
no, I'm almost sure Dyer's
Dyer's his name. So when Dyer is basically in front of a tribunal and
court martial,
it was a court martial, and there are white and Indian men asking him, like, was this necessary?
Yeah.
And he's like,
Oh, yeah.
well, I thought it was necessary.
Yeah.
The fact that he just doubles and triples down, which
Yeah.
again felt very, 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 very relevant in a horrifying
Look, you're
way.
watching this whole movie. You keep wondering whether it's relevant and thinking about how relevant it is now. And to some degrees, you're like, oh yeah, I get it, resistance and da-da. In some ways, it doesn't, because it's resistance against somebody who has shame, and there's no indication that some of the people resisting have shame.
Right. Yeah, because
but it's very interesting because you keep thinking about it. As you're watching this movie today, you keep wondering what's relevant, what's applicable, what isn't. How is this the same? How is it different? It's very interesting.
And that's not something I thought I'd be thinking about with this movie. I thought this movie would be sort of frozen in the time.
Yes.
And it would be, whether I liked it or not, I thought it would be like this time, this country, the other side of the world.
Agreed.
And I think that, I could see a 1982 audience watching this movie and having a similar reaction. This movie makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
This movie's resonant.
Yeah.
To, I mean, obviously a global audience, but obviously it made a lot of money. I mean, it made something like $56 million in America, and that's in 1982 dollars. So that's a big hit back then.
Yeah. And again, remember, while these events happened prior, and some of them farther than others, many, many, many of the adults who were watching this movie when it came out remembered these as news events.
Like, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you were like a teenager in 1948, or even in like middle school, you're 1982. It's. I'm saying this now. It's only 34 years later. So like, if we watch a movie about, 9/11 or
again,
like,
what were you saying? It was like 1992 for us. Like, of course,
or like the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah,
that's 30 years ago, 31 years ago. So that's about the same. Depending on. I mean, what I think is interesting about this movie that I think it does really well is that they're really only signposting how old he is on the train, 1883, and his assassination. They're not constantly throwing years up, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
I kind of like that I'm getting this history lesson, but I'm not getting a lot of dates.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I have a general sense of like, okay, he's older.
Yeah.
His wife is dead. I'm getting a general sense of like time.
Yeah.
But they're not signposting time, which I think works in this movie.
Yeah. You have a very unclear concept of how much time is, like, how fast was it that the Salt March and Independence, like, that's not signposted. You don't know. I could have handled a little more so I understood it more.
Yeah, but
it didn't bother me. I didn't think about it at the time. I wasn't upset by it.
I wasn't either. I mean, yeah, I think.
Okay. I was curious. I'm like, how long was this process? I did wonder. I guess I'll take that back a little bit. I did wonder. I'm like, how long did he, pardon me, do this before it yielded a result? How many days of fasting? They don't even tell you that in some of the hunger fasts.
Yeah. The days of fasting, I think, would be interesting to sign. Yeah, maybe I'm taking my point back a little bit also. But I think what's interesting is the one thing they do is, that montage, which we both agree is a little bit on the long side, you see Gandhi's hair going away.
Yeah.
And I was like, at first I thought, like, oh, did he go bald? Did he shave it for some sort of religious purpose? But I'm guessing it's just like that. That's their way of showing time that, like, this guy had a full head of hair.
Maybe that was it. Because I wondered, of course, yes, he has full flowing black hair at the beginning.
Right.
And then when he's on the thing, it's kind of a light white. It's not a, it's like a short
It's
cut,
receding and receding. And
mohawky kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
And then it's gone and it stays gone. So I think that's one way. Yeah. Oh, the line here, which is, I think, the most famous quote of his, is "An eye for an eye only makes the whole world blind." I wanted to say that correctly.
Yeah.
I think that's the quote I knew from Gandhi. There's just a lot of stuff. There's this scene. So when he's on his, I think it's when he's on his hunger strike. So there's a woman who shows up. She's white.
What's interesting about that character is she must be a real person historically, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense for her to show up in the movie. That person only shows up because they're an actual real person who was in Gandhi's life like that.
Right.
In a narrative like if his life was fictional, you would not put her in it.
There's a shot when he's on his first hunger strike where he's very weak and she's kind of crouching down to talk to him, and it's this beautiful 2-shot where like I don't know, I just wanted to sort of, there's a lot of great photography in this movie, but a lot of it is like the stuff you think I would call all be like all these vistas and the train and sort of the mass humanity, but there's this very intimate shot of this woman and sort of like, and he's sort of whispering in her ear, and I just thought as a 2-shot, it was just like really dynamic.
There was a shot at the end of this movie. Holy crap, it was so good. I mean, first of all, every shot's good. This is a painterly movie.
Yes.
You could take any individual frame of this movie and make it into a picture.
Right.
And there's one at the end. Damn, it was so good. I was like,
which one?
I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It's the end. He's old and he's in the foreground and she's in the background. Off to the right side, she's blurry because of depth of field.
Yeah.
In a white outfit, and it's focused on him, and she's in the back. And I'm like, it's such a fucking good scene. The composition is amazing. Gosh, damn that shot.
Yeah. There's a lot. So I guess the next thing that I don't want to be so violence centric in this, but this is kind of what the movie is about. I guess when Martin Sheen comes back and he's watching all of them sort of march up to get clubbed in the face.
One of my friends is like, when you watch this movie, watch out for this, keep an eye out for this scene. That's the thing that stuck with this guy, this friend of mine. Like, he saw it in the theater for, 40 years it stuck with him.
Yeah. Because it's just these guys walking up and getting hit in the face with clubs. And blood's drawn.
And the next 4 guys.
And they just keep, and Martin Sheen, who's a New York Times reporter, is just there watching it. And you see how affected he is by it, as any decent person would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting choice they made in the movie there, in that scene, because I looked up historically what had happened, because I was curious. Essentially went down as they showed, with the exception at the very beginning of that, one of Gandhi's, it's not an assistant, it's one of the other people in his circle, who was present at that protest, talks to the Indian workers who are protesting. He's like, they are going to beat us.
Yeah.
We will take it. Right. We will keep going. Da, 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 da. And it's a stirring speech and da, da. And in real life, it was done by another person in his orbit who was a real person, but who was a woman. And they did not choose to have it portrayed by a woman. It was that guy who was always with him in all the other scenes as one of his close associates.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a little disappointing too. I get it. I think, the character of his wife, is a good character. I think her best scene is very early on where she doesn't want to clean the toilets.
Yeah,
and he's
that's good.
Yeah, he's like, we're all gonna do it.
Everybody does everything.
Yeah, and I like how she's not like a Mary Sue. She's not like whatever you say, my dear. I like that she's. She's being kind of petulant and she's being kind of wrongheaded, and his reaction.
She's showing that his stance is radical, is what she's showing. His stance is very radical.
And his response is like, he's like, get out of here, and then he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. The fact that he's not, it's I like in the early going how he's not painted as totally saintly. The fact that he has that, and maybe the movie could have used more of that, but I don't know if like the facts bear that out. What I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I'm not going to ding the movie on something that I know. Because what I like, for instance, in Malcolm X does such an incredible job about that with the Angela Bassett character, just putting the human face on, like, you are far too dedicated to this person who is not who you think he is. And he's like, don't you raise your voice in my house. Like, you see that, like, in that movie, that Malcolm's kind of being an asshole and his wife is representing that. So, like, that movie is saying, like, oh, look, this guy was wrong about this. And he was, I don't want to get into that movie too much, but I do think that, I like how his wife isn't just whatever you say.
Yeah.
But I also, it's probably better that they didn't try to make it about her, because I would imagine that like her life was subsumed by him.
It can't be about anybody else. This movie has to be about Gandhi.
It has to be about Gandhi.
That's why all those other characters all have to.
Exactly.
fine.
Which is why I think
Fine.
for someone like Martin Sheen or Candice Bergen, it's like, okay, well, I'll come. I can't imagine they worked on the movie very long. They probably were there a couple weeks or something.
Mhm.
Like it's like it probably was like, oh, I'm going to come in for this bit of it. And I think again, the modern mistake of this movie would be to try to. It's a crass way to put it. Give him like a sidekick, or give him like a white guy who's like, I'm going to help you do this.
Yeah,
And we've seen
can
that.
be a little bit of exposition and stuff.
Yeah, we've seen that so many, and we've seen that incredibly. We've seen that more recently than we did back in the early '80s.
Mhm.
I think I know the shot you're talking about. I wrote a shot. It's a great shot of him weaving with this
Yes.
English woman in the background.
Yes, he's
That's
weaving.
That's the shot. Yeah, I
incredible.
wrote that shot down too. Um,
Every scene's
there's a
incredible.
moment there's a moment pretty close to the end, when he's on his second, or at least the second hunger strike that we
Mhm.
see, and he's sort of like on that sort of terrace. He's in one of the
Yes.
bigger cities,
Yeah.
and this guy comes up to him,
Oh, yeah.
and he says, "Oh, I killed this
I'm
child."
going to hell, but not because you die, because I'm still protesting. Because
Right.
Gandhi says he's going to keep the hunger strike up while the
Right.
violence is going on. He's like, yeah, I'm
Right,
going to
that's-
hell, but not because of you.
Right. So the second hunger strike is really taught because it's
Yeah.
like all these people are dying, and Gandhi says, "I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to eat until all the violence in the whole country," which again, 300 plus million people.
Yeah.
And there's no real media at this point. There's no, even like tracking what's going on had to have been so much harder.
Yes. Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we're talking like, what are we in the 30s or 40s at this point? So
40s, yeah.
we're still depending on
Partition.
telegrams and just like good old fashioned like word of mouth to find out if this is even working.
Well, telephones, but yes.
No, there are telephones, of course. What I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
there's not a media.
No, and across the breadth of the country.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
The-
absolutely.
If this were going on today, you would still have a media
Yeah.
infrastructure
Yes.
to get this news faster.
Yeah.
As far as like, is this hunger strike working?
Yeah.
Gandhi would know, okay, this is working, this is not working. I'm eating, I'm not eating.
Yeah.
But-
And so he has to rely on whether the violence has stopped and he can eat again, on his associates who tell him the news. He's obviously not listening to news. He can barely lift his head.
Yeah.
And sometimes it looks like he's not sure, and again, Attenborough portrays it well. He's not sure if he trusts them or whether they're just telling him the violence has stopped
To get
because
him
they
to
want him
eat.
to eat again.
Yeah. Because you see the effect on both these hunger strikes. Because again, I knew the hunger strike thing about Gandhi. I mean, that's like sort of like the, go on a hunger strike like Gandhi?
Yeah.
That's something my parents ever said to me.
Yeah.
But like that's one of the things perhaps unfairly that we associate with Gandhi.
Yeah.
His look,
Yeah.
the eye for the whole world blind,
Mhm.
and hunger strikes.
Yeah.
That's like sort of the, but that moment where the guy says, "I'm going to hell because I killed a child," and Gandhi says, there's a way out for you.
I wondered if that was real. And I still do. Like, is that something he actually said to the guy? I was really wondering.
Yep. You know what?
Or is that an exemplar?
I bet that moment didn't happen, but I think that he probably had interactions like that.
Yeah.
And the
that would make
screenwriter
sense. That would
probably
make sense.
said, "I'm going to create one moment where I put this all together." And that, I think, is good biopicking, where you just create a moment that is true, but maybe not accurate.
Yeah,
And
that's
I think-
a perfect way to say it. True, but
Yeah.
not accurate. And I suspect that happened numerous times, and possibly with numerous characters. That they're like, I suspect the Martin Sheen character is an amalgamation of
Totally.
multiple reporters who were
From the West,
interacting
yeah.
with Gandhi over his life. But it would just be a mess if you had 10 different guys.
Yeah,
and
I
put
think-
them into one. That's all fine, and as you said, good biopicking.
I think that
Something doesn't need to have happened to be true.
yes, I think that's where we're gonna kind of land on
Yeah.
this, because I think Attenborough is definitely, we've talked about it, is definitely not just Lawrence of Arabia, but just David Lean in general. I really
Yeah.
feel like if David Lean
Oh.
made this movie,
Yeah.
and not for nothing, the movie he makes 2 years later is A Passage to India.
Yeah.
India itself has a real big moment. I don't know if this movie kicks it off, but so we have this movie in 82, which
Mhm.
makes a lot of money and wins Best Picture. James Bond goes to India the very next year in Octopussy,
Octopussy.
which is like
Yeah.
80% in India.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones goes to India the next year. And,
Grimace, it's the second Indiana Jones movie, but
well,
yes. Yeah.
maybe
I
not,
get it. No, totally.
maybe not the most sensitive
Mhm.
portrayal of the country,
Mhm.
but two action icons
Yeah, it's true.
go to
Absolutely
India
true.
2 years after this
Yeah,
movie.
good
James
point. That's a
Bond
very
and
good
Indiana
point.
Jones.
Very good
And then
point.
David Lean, who's very much a lodestar for this movie,
Uh-huh.
makes his last movie, his first movie in 14 years, and his last movie ever, which we didn't know at
Wow.
the time, A Passage to India.
Yeah.
which I will watch in preparation for the 84 episode, but I have not seen up to this point. But anyway, so I'm just saying that's 4 big movies
Yeah.
about India.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not about India, but like where India is a central component of it.
Yes.
So that's just kind of interesting.
And keep in mind, India is a huge country with a huge population, but it's a bigger population proportionally now. It's arguably more important in world affairs now than it was then, and we don't have 4 major movies taking place in India.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think if there had never been a Gandhi movie, and there were one now, and it were good, as good as this or better, I think it would find a huge global audience.
Yeah.
If it just made money in India, that's
isn't Bollywood they make more movies?
Bollywood makes more movies than
But is it a higher revenue stream than
Bollywood is always been a booming film industry.
Yeah.
And there's been, has been for I don't know how many decades. Certainly,
absolutely.
Sanjeet Ray.
I mean, it's literally legendary. Everybody who works in the industry here talks about it. Like, Bollywood makes more movies than we do, more everything than we do.
Yeah, I mean, and there are different kinds of movies. A lot of musicals and things that we don't do. But yeah, I mean, some of them have crossed over, like that movie RRR. A couple years ago. Yeah. We're now going to move on to categorically denied. Before we get to Best Picture, let's see if Gandhi was worthy of the other 7 Oscars it won. There's a lot to talk about here. So Richard Attenborough wins Best Director. He beats Wolfgang Petersen for Das Boot, Steven Spielberg for E.T., Sidney Pollack for Tootsie, and Sidney Lumet for The Verdict. So, against those 4 men, all these movies that you've seen, that you remember, do you still give the Best Director Oscar to Lord Richard Attenborough?
I do, because all those great, well-directed movies. But it's epic, not in the sense that it is an epic, though it is. Just think about just the feat of directorship holding this movie together for that long. First of all, the physical length of the movie, also the shoot time, holding a movie together like that is unbelievable, and he pulled it off. So I'm gonna let that one stand. I don't know. What do you think?
I think the direction in this is very impressive, and I think for the reasons that you just said, and I think going into it, I thought it was going to be very dull. Very stately, very talky. I think he does an incredible job with it for all the reasons that you said. And I think that these are all directors that I love. I love Wolfgang Petersen. I love Pollack. I love Lumet. And I think they all do incredible work. I'm going to give it to Steven Spielberg for E.T.
I remember not liking E.T. particularly when it came out. When I was a kid and I saw it, I'm like, something about it didn't dig. I'd probably like it more now. Frankly. Yeah. I'm not sure I've seen it again.
So I'm gonna give it to Spielberg for E.T. I just think
legit.
I mean, I don't know that that's
movie.
Such a hot take.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that what Spielberg pulls off there is really almost a magic trick. So I want to get to this. So this next category, and this is, I want to throw this to you. So you had said, you kind of set me up for this. I'm so thankful. You had said that Ben Kingsley, we're talking about Best Actor now.
Yeah.
You said that Ben Kingsley was the best actor ever.
He may be. I haven't seen them all, but damn.
Okay, so I've seen all 5 of these performances. I want to throw something out. So I'm going to read the nominees, and then I'm going to hit you up with a question, which you may or may not be able to answer. So Ben Kingsley wins Best Actor. He beats Dustin Hoffman for Tootsie.
Great. Yep.
Jack Lemmon for Missing. Paul Newman for The Verdict. And Peter O'Toole for My Favorite Year.
Yep.
So let me ask you this before we decide who wins and who loses. Is this the best actor category ever? Because I just saw Missing maybe like a week or so ago. We'll get into that in a second. I just feel like these, now that I've seen Gandhi, so before the other day I'd seen 3 of these performances, I've now seen all 5. So not always the case with Best Actor, because if the movie's not, the Best Picture winners aren't always in contention for Best Actor. I think that all 5 of these performances are great.
Yeah.
I would say that Paul Newman's best performance of his career is The Verdict.
Yeah.
And I would say that Tootsie is got to be top 3 or 4 for Hoffman.
Not even a question.
Yeah, I mean, this, Rain Man, Kramer versus Kramer.
Yep.
Maybe one other I'm not thinking of. Maybe The Graduate if you want to go a little younger. And I Missing is something I just saw, and Jack Lemmon is fantastic in it.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite years of movie I saw a lot as a kid, and I think I appreciate it more now because I think it's like a very, you know,
It's a
it's
meditation on age and aging and
yeah,
things
it's
like that.
Peter
That I
O'Toole.
did not appreciate them, but I did see it then. I remember
Yeah,
it.
I think it's what I knew Peter O'Toole from. Because I saw this movie on TV a lot. It
Yeah,
was a favorite of my
same.
mother's, and I didn't know him as Lawrence of Arabia. I didn't know
No,
him as like this
this is
handsome
what I
young
knew him
man.
from.
So, and Ben Kingsley is astounding in Gandhi. So I think if I were just talking about Best Actor now, if I was watching the Academy Awards that night, I wasn't. I was 4.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have been like. I almost feel like this one could go 5 different ways, and I would be happy now having seen all 5. You know, the O'Toole one might be a tiny bit of a stretch because it's not what we think about as a going to an earlier point. You know, I think he's better in Lawrence of Arabia than he is.
I
in
was
My
going to
Favorite
say, I
Year.
don't remember his performance as being particularly.
No.
It was fun and I liked it, but I don't necessarily think of it as best actor level.
No, but I think it's great that they nominated something that's comedic.
Yeah,
and has some
yeah,
dramatic
yeah, I get
elements.
it.
I think it's the fact, and Hoffman's performance is almost completely comedic, but has some pathos to it. So I'm wondering. So sticking. So Ben Kingsley against these 4 guys. What do you think? He keeps it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't be, as you said, upset per se if any of them won. I actually no. If Peter O'Toole had won that year, I'd have been like, really?
Okay.
I had a giveaway because they liked him. He needed one after these years.
But Lemmon, Newman, and Hoffman.
Look, all of those, again, fantastic performances.
Yeah.
But arguably, again, fantastic performances doing, to some degree, the same character. Meaning, whatever character it is, say Tootsie, or I don't remember the name of Newman's character.
Frank Galvin.
Okay. But you're portraying him in a relatively short period of time during the really up to this trial. He's the same person when this movie begins in time, the trial, whatever time it takes, 3 months. That's the same individual human. Kingsley is portraying Gandhi when he is 25 and when he is whatever he is, just 70, whatever it is.
Right.
And both of those are flawless performances. And the transformation, he has to portray him accurately throughout a massive period of time when Gandhi as a person changed, his beliefs changed, his physicality changed, all of those things. Blow the hell out of all of those. Yes, was Dustin Hoffman great as Tootsie, but he had to portray how Tootsie was, if he portrayed Tootsie over 40 years, and you saw how Tootsie changed, and you felt that. But Kingsley does that for the entire life. Young man to old man, you feel it. The physicality is so incredible.
Right.
It just, none of them are comparable.
Okay.
I'm sorry. They're all fantastic, but none of them are comparable.
That's an interesting rubric to talk about it in, because I think you're right. All 4 of these performances that he beat, I mean, Missing, it's like a couple days, meaning the span of that movie. Tootsie, it's a couple weeks. The Verdict's a couple weeks. I think My Favorite Year is over the course of like all week, a couple days.
A year, possibly.
No, not even a year.
I know it's when he's taking care of Lyle Swan. Yeah.
No, but I think the
events take place.
The events take place over the course of a week or a couple of weeks in all 4 of those performances. So I think it's an interesting distinction. Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough because I would have said I'd give it to Newman because I think it's his best performance.
Yeah.
But I also think I'm going to be a little bit. I mean, yeah, I guess if I was going to rank them, O'Toole would be the bottom, even though I think he's great.
Yeah.
But I think as far as virtuosity, I'd have, it's interesting because it's like, like Lemmon and Newman are playing, grounded characters that they can relate to.
Yeah.
Hoffman and Kingsley are disappearing into roles. I mean, Hoffman's playing an actor disappearing into a role.
Yeah.
Kingsley is disappearing into a role.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to be a little bit. I think Paul Newman, this is his best performance. Like I said, it's one of Hoffman's best performances. I think it's Missing is one of Lemon's best performances. It's kind of throw a dart. Kingsley's incredible, so I'm going to just kind of say this is the best. This might be the best actor lineup ever. Even if I were to rank O'Toole fifth, which I would, I still think he's great in it.
I gotta watch My Favorite Year again.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it in 30 years.
Yeah. So I have another discussion. Okay. So Gandhi wins original screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
It beats. This is tough. It beats Diner, E.T., An Officer and a Gentleman, and Tootsie. So I have 2 questions here. The first is my normal question is, would you give Gandhi original screenplay? We're talking just about the screenplay now over Diner, E.T., Officer and Gentleman, and Tootsie.
No.
Which one would you give it to?
Diner.
Yeah, I think I'd go Diner also. I love E.T., but and it's a good screenplay. But yeah, Diner is.
Diner, man. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Levinson's first movie.
Yeah. Of course, you gotta keep in mind I grew up in that area, so it also means more to me. But yes.
Sure, but I did not, and it doesn't. But
shit. Nope. Yeah.
Diner. Yeah, I would agree. Here's a question. So that's actually easy.
Okay.
Here's a question though that I think I brought up before. I definitely will bring up again. So Gandhi is presumably an original screenplay because it's not based on anything published or produced.
Yeah, it's such a weird category.
It's such a weird category.
Given the way they pick adapted and stuff like.
Well, here's the thing. Like Gandhi's not. I mean, they have his life. It's not a blank page.
I know. Like Lego is considered an adapted screenplay because Legos exist in the real world.
And Barbie, same thing.
Yeah, Barbie, same thing. Because a Barbie is a toy. That's an adapted screenplay.
Well, it's an existing property.
Weird.
But I agree that's weird.
Yeah.
Or but I always found it weird. I remember the first time that I encountered this is when Aaron Brockovich was nominated for original screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good movie and it's a good screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not attacking it, but I said, well, wait a minute, she's a real person.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be adapted? And then it was explained to me like, well, there was nothing written or produced.
There was
They're
not making a movie of a biography about her.
Yeah, well, they're not adapting a book.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not adapting a TV show.
I get it.
I just find it weird because if you're the writer of Gandhi, sticking with the current example, you don't have to think about what does Gandhi do next. You have to think about how to portray it.
Yes.
It's a different skill set.
Absolutely agreed.
I just think it's a weird Oscar rule.
Yeah, totally.
But I agree
totally.
with you of these five, Diner. Here's another tricky one.
Okay.
Or maybe not. Best cinematography, it beats Das Boot, E.T., Sophie's Choice, and Tootsie.
Hard.
Yeah, this one's tricky.
But I'm still willing to go with it. Like, I'm not upset by it winning at all. As I said, every shot is painterly.
Yeah.
Some of the shots literally made my jaw drop. Like, it's well freaking shot. Like, it just is. Like, there's no way. Again, if one of those had won, I wouldn't be pissed off about it, but it deserves it.
I think it deserves
So I'm
cinematography also. I'm actually going to go with Gandhi on this one. I think I think it's painterly, it's beautiful. A few things really took my breath away.
And both the tight scenes and the wide scenes are good. And some of those wide scenes are hard to shoot.
Yes.
You're shooting 10,000 people. It's hard to make that look like anything, and they did.
Yeah,
so
I think Gandhi is deserving of its best cinematography. This one's not a close call for me. I'm curious if I think we'll agree on this, but let's see. It wins best art direction. It beats Annie, Blade Runner, La Traviata, and Victor Victoria.
Okay. No.
Yes.
I'm saying no. No, they should not have won best art direction. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but what should have won? It's pretty obvious.
To me, I can tell you, I don't know if this is the actual answer in the world, but to me, Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Insane.
This is a layup.
Here's my feeling. Yes, for Blade Runner, but of course we all remember Blade Runner was not well liked when it came out.
Right. I agree. I mean, of course it was not.
To some degree, because I was thinking about, I was watching, and I'm looking, I'm like, this deserves the most amazing cinematography award. It does not deserve the best art direction or production design award because you're not production designing India. India exists.
I mean,
you have to think about how to shoot it right and make it look right and but you're not like creating a fantastical world that Gandhi would have inhabited the way you do for Blade Runner or something. Like, you're not creating that world. The world exists. You have to be good at shooting it, but that's a different thing. That's not
the production designer of Gandhi probably did a lot of invisible work. That's very incredible.
Yeah,
but Blade Runner,
come on,
even in its bastardized theatrical release version,
it's my favorite version. No one else in the world agrees with me, but that's how
you like the '82 version the best.
I do. I prefer the voiceover version with the ending. I'm the only person in the human.
You are. That is a hindsighting exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But I'm saying that's
I can explain why, but I don't need to. But yes,
that's interesting. But even a cut that most people would consider, not you, compromised retroactively, the art direction in that movie is just astounding.
Astonishing.
It's before Blade Runner and after Blade Runner.
Astonishing. Okay. Astonishing.
So it should have won art direction, and that would have been something.
They didn't want a genre movie to win. They couldn't conceive of it. People didn't like the movie. It lost for reasons that were not about how good it was.
Yeah. Best costume design. It beats La Traviata, Sophie's Choice, Tron, Victor Victoria. What say you?
I haven't seen all those movies, so I can't usefully tell you. The costume design is very good.
Yeah.
Is it best? Couldn't tell you, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's, I actually would, I'm okay with it. I don't, I think
fine.
it's fine. I actually,
No, Nothing blew my mind off about it, but you didn't. At no point did you watch and you're like, "Why are they dressed like?" It makes sense, and that's fine. That's a great skill set. So
I actually would go with Tron because I think that the costumes in that
That's the one I was thinking I wouldn't go with.
Well, I just think it's something I would, it's costumes I'd never seen before. It's a look that I'd never seen before.
Yeah, they had to figure out how to pull it off, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not at all.
Yeah,
I'm not at all like outraged by this.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a throw a dart. But I would personally, if this ballot were in front of me,
Yeah.
I would go with Tron for costume design.
Yeah, again, genre movie that era.
No, it had no chance.
No one's giving it to Tron.
No one's giving it to Tron. Okay, here's an interesting one. Best editing. It beats Dust Boot, E.T., An Officer and a Gentleman, and Tootsie. What say you?
I haven't seen most of those movies very recently, so it's hard to comment remembering like the specific editing choices on them.
Well, just the general pace,
I'm gonna
though.
vaguely say fine, but I'm not wedded to that. I wouldn't. Maybe one of the other ones is better. Again, it's 3 hours long, a little less actually because they have that intermission in the middle.
Yeah.
But it does. I wasn't sitting there like looking at my watch, like when's this done? It feels paced properly.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like as you said that one month. But that's the most small of
that's
details.
The only point where I felt bored was that
the rest of them. I'm sure if I just honestly don't remember the rest of their editing well enough. It was edited fine.
Yeah.
Didn't strike me as astonishing editing, but
yeah,
it's well done enough. Fine.
We talk a lot about editing on this podcast, which is why I always talk about the length because like so many of these best picture winners are just really fucking long.
Yeah.
I do think that it moved more briskly than I would have thought, than I feared going into it.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. I think I probably would give this to E.T.
Yeah,
kind of like coinciding with the directing thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that this movie was very well edited.
Yeah.
I think they kept it moving for the most part.
It's fine.
So
That's good.
so it's not an outrage.
Sure. Yeah.
So did this movie earn its salt, or is it time for us to declare our independence? It's time to test our hindsight with the verdict. So Scott, against E.T., Missing, Tootsie, and the verdict, was Gandhi the best movie nominated this year? Just the nominees.
Okay, may I first make my it's not even a rant, my explanation of how a very, very bad movie can win Best Picture very easily.
Sure.
So this is something that I've thought about many times. Again, I literally got my PhD writing about movies, and I've worded it out. So here's the thing. The voting for the Oscars is a plurality vote. You need to win Best Picture, you have to get a higher percentage of the vote than any of the other nominees. You don't have to get 50%. You just have to get more than any of the other nominees.
Even with the preferential ballot that we've been using the last few years?
But think about then.
Okay, so talking about just 1982.
And what that means is, and again, in that era, it was 5 nominees.
Mm-hmm.
That means to win Best Picture, you only needed to win, it's a theoretical thing, 21% of the vote.
Why is that?
That means because there's 5 nominees, 20% each could get, that evens it out.
Oh,
so
interesting.
That means, let me tell you, 79% of the voters could think the movie was the shittiest movie that had ever been made. 79% could think it was the worst movie. And it could still win Best Picture because it only needed 21% of the vote to win.
Wow.
Which is astonishing.
That is
movies
astonishing.
Truly I remember when I came up with this theory, which is after I saw Titanic. I don't know why that's what brought it to mind. But again, think about those numbers. 5 nominees, you only have to get more than any other movie. If you get 21%, and 3 others get 20 and 1 gets 19,
you win.
You win. 79% of the people can think your movie sucks, and you win Best Picture easily.
Wow. Do you think the preferential ballot is a answer to that?
Yes.
Okay. Because I talked a lot about.
By the way, especially other than preferential ballot, with 10 nominees, you only need 11%. 89% of the people could think your movie was shitty, and you can still win Best Picture, which is crazy. 11% of the people think you have the best movie, and it can win.
But doesn't the preferential ballot though? But if so, what would it be? If the largest percentage of people think your movie is the second best, and
I don't know how they do the rankings.
This is my understanding.
The weighting of it.
This is something my wife and I kind of look up every year.
Mm-hmm.
The preferential ballot, as I understand it, is that
it's a ranked choice movies, essentially.
You're saying I want this one, I want this two.
So another one.
So if your number 1 gets knocked off, they go to your number 2.
Yeah.
So a lot of movies that's like everybody's number 2 or 3 could win because they have different number 1s and 2s.
Yes.
That's my understanding of it in theory. And I think it's
not in this era. So in this era, you only need 21%. Again,
It's winner take all.
Almost 80% of the people could think your movie sucks and you win Best Picture.
That's a credit. All right.
Okay.
So
that's my hot take. That said, I think this may be the best picture of the year.
Okay.
Like, those are incredible movies, all of them.
Yes.
It's just hard to deny as a piece of work, as a piece of art, as a piece of everything. It's just so fucking well done. Like, the whole damn thing. It's an endeavor making this movie. The way that, like, making, now I know you don't like them, but whether you like them or not, making the Lord of the Rings movies is an endeavor. Like,
I don't dislike them.
Okay.
I don't dislike them. I just had a hard time engaging with Lord of the Rings.
We don't have to adjudicate that, but yes.
But I did say that I was very impressed by the epic undertaking of making those movies.
Yes, and so this also. So
this is
first
similar,
of all, it's an amazing movie. Second of all, the undertaking of making this movie is amazing. Just think about the extras, everything. Like, it's amazing. Yes, this wins Best Picture. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So I've now seen all 5 of these movies, and I'd seen 3. I'd seen E.T., Tootsie, and The Verdict many, many times. I just rewatched E.T. I took my daughter to see it at the museum.
That's a good idea. I haven't shown it to her yet.
I for this podcast,
we have daughters the same age. That should be disclosed.
Yes. For this podcast, I watched Missing for the first time, and I watched Gandhi for the first time, which I disclosed at the top of this. So I've seen all 5 of these. I think this is a very strong crop. Yeah. Very strong crop of movies.
Yeah.
I think all these movies are different. I think Gandhi is sharing some DNA with Missing as far as like political dissent and very different tones. But I do think there's a little bit of like some, a country mistreating its. I mean, look, both the Gandhi and Missing have bodies in the streets.
Yeah.
Very different tones.
Yeah.
And it's interesting seeing these 2 movies for the first time kind of close together.
Yeah.
That they came out in the same year is interesting.
Yeah.
They're different time periods. And, Tootsie, of course, is a great comedy. It is
fantastic.
It is looked at as one of the great screenplays as far as like how you set things up. And, and it's a great movie. And, I think I'm just going to go, my pick is
what do you think? Yeah.
E.T.'s movies I've always liked. I liked it when I was a kid, but it's one of those movies that like you can appreciate differently as an adult than as a kid, but it's for everybody.
Yeah.
So in his initial review of E.T., Roger Ebert compared it right away to The Wizard of Oz, and I think he kind of nailed it right out of the gate. Because I think this is like the rare movie that says something personal and poignant that's inside a 4-quadrant blockbuster.
Yeah.
I think this is like maybe the best example of something that's 4-quadrant, by which I mean male, female, young, old.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that Spielberg...
At the time I thought of it as a kid's movie, though, I got to tell you.
No, but I think it is a kid's movie. I think the fact that Spielberg followed up Raiders of the Lost Ark with this has got to be one of the greatest 1-2 punches in cinema history. That a year apart, he did Raiders, and a year later, almost to the day, he puts out this movie. If it's not these 2, then it's another Spielberg double act that we're going to be talking about in the 1993 episode. Most people probably know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I recently took my 10-year-old to see this movie, and she really dug it. I think she's still kind of absorbing it, but I don't think, to go back to thinking about nostalgia, I think that E.T. is kind of timeless. I don't think it's locked into the early 80s. Hairstyles, some ugly brown furniture, some technical stuff, but I've just
never been a huge E.T. guy.
That's
I didn't really at the time, so I'm not. I don't think I agree on that one.
No, it's fine. I think, look,
we don't have to.
There's some beloved movies that I don't like.
Yeah.
And they'll probably come up as we go through this thing. But yeah, to me, I think this is, I don't think it's as good as Jaws or Raiders. I prefer those movies, but I do think it's more emotionally powerful. For me.
Yeah. I took my daughter to see The Verdict 2 days ago. I'm kidding. I did not take a 10-year-old to see The Verdict.
So, Scott, let me ask you. It's time for the appeal. What was the best movie of 1982, period, whether it was nominated for an Oscar or not? Do you like any movie in 1982 more than you like Gandhi?
I like most movies. I like many movies in 1982 more than I like Gandhi, but Gandhi is still the best movie of the year because those are movies that I like for reasons that are central to me, and I do not think necessarily make them the best movie of the year.
Okay.
If I recall, that year had, The Thing is that year, I believe.
Yes, it is.
The Thing's insane.
Yeah.
Sorry, what else? Conan the Barbarian
Yeah.
was out that year. And also, this is my another hot take, Beastmaster. And here as a nerd, I'm going to make a strong statement that no one else will agree with, and I'll be attacked in the street, but luckily I'm a master swordsman, so I'm not worried. Beastmaster is a better barbarian movie than Conan. No one else has it, but I believe it.
I love
it. And I would say my personal favorite movie that I have watched more than the others of this in that year is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
It's so good. I think the last 20 minutes of that movie are among the best cinema of that era, flat out. So yes, I enjoy many movies more than I enjoy from that year, many than I enjoyed Gandhi, and I will watch them over and over, and I'm probably never watching Gandhi again.
Yeah.
But Gandhi may still really well be the best movie of that year.
Okay. My best movie of the year is E.T. for all the reasons I already gave, so I'm not going to go into that again. So our next category is Spotlight, where we can spotlight something from any movie we like. It could be a performance, cinematography, score, stunt sequence, anything from any movie 82 that popped for us and that we felt this thing should have been nominated. Like this cinematography should have been nominated, this stunt should have been nominated. So what from 82... Well, you talked about Beastmaster. You want to spotlight something from Beastmaster?
I mean, I just think it's a great barbarian movie. And Conan, even at the time, like I loved it. I watched it. I was a nerd. It was the 80s. I was, whatever I was, 11, I think.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like it was a particularly good movie then. But most of those sword and sandal movies aren't.
Right.
I just remember thinking Beastmaster, and frankly, Mark Singer's a better actor than Arnold Schwarzenegger is. And it's based on Andrea Norton's story. Yeah, so I like that. But the truth is, if you asked me for my favorite section of cinema from 1982, it would be Wrath of Khan. From the moment when they're trapped on the Genesis planet in Kirk, they find out the subterfuge that Spock pulled off, to the end of the movie, through the whole cat and mouse game where they're fighting each other, the whole thing. It's flawless. At the end of that sequence, one of the most beloved characters in popular culture dies.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing, again, it's amazing. It's an amazing scene. It's paced in a way I do not think audiences would appreciate today, I suspect, in an quote unquote action movie.
Right.
But that pacing you're on the edge of your seat the whole friggin' time. It's so well done. So well done.
Okay. I'm going to spotlight 3 things that broke new ground in 1982, and all kind of in a somewhat similar wheelhouse that you're sort of talking about. So I'm going to spotlight 3 things that broke new ground in 1982 that I hope are now obvious because they were barely appreciated back then. The first, which we already kind of touched on, was the production design of Blade Runner by Lawrence G. Paul.
Yeah.
This was Oscar nominated. It did not win. You and I agree that it should have won.
Love it. I love Blade Runner. I mean, yeah. Huge.
So the 3 most influential sci-fi movies of the 20th century, for my money, are 2001, Star Wars, and this. The problem was that this was a bomb when it came out.
Yep.
But the production design was Oscar nominated, so at least it was recognized out of the gate, even though the movie took a long time to find its reputation.
Can I add a small and odd thing about Blade Runner and the production design you might appreciate? So, as many people know, maybe you do, maybe you don't, Deckard's house was filmed in a Frank Lloyd Wright house in Los Angeles, the NS House. I used to be the president of the board of directors of the NS House, and I've spent I've slept in that house many times.
Have you really?
I used to use it as a guest house when friends would come to town. I'd put them up there. I threw my New Year's Eve 2000, my 1999 into 2000 New Year's Eve party in that NS House. It's Deckard's house.
Too bad I didn't know you then.
Yeah, I know. It was great to be a friend of mine then. I took dates there. It was great. It's beautiful. I hated being there alone at night because it's large and spooky.
I bet.
But so I have a ton of experience living in Deckard's house.
Oh, wow. So I think you would agree, all sci-fi has looked up the ass of Blade Runner to the point where depicting the future, I think, should sort of be outlawed.
Sid Mead killed it. Nobody else can do it.
Yeah. I think, this movie... I can see this movie being too obtuse or too heady for the masses, but the production design is revolutionary.
So good.
And even you and I don't agree on the best cut of this movie.
Yeah.
But every cut of this movie shows how incredible the cinematography
absolutely. Not
is.
even a question.
Okay, another movie that you mentioned, I'm going to mention again. Another thing I want to spotlight is the makeup for The Thing by Rob Bottin. Oh
my gosh, it's insane. It's so good.
I talked a little bit about...
Shit, that movie's good.
Yeah. I talked about how horror is really blossoming in the 80s. And the big leap forward in the 80s is just good old-fashioned gore. I was very late to this movie. I only saw it a little over 20 years ago, but I actually think that The Thing is just as good as the original Alien because its creature design is different and it keeps going. It's in different yet escalating horrifying forms. And Rob Bottin reportedly had a nervous breakdown working on this. And I really weep for the mind that can conjure up the imagery that we see in The Thing.
Yeah.
So this movie was, linking everything together, was dismissed and buried, as was Blade Runner, because of E.T.
Also, just John Carpenter, I think we probably agree on, does not get the respect he deserves, probably.
This is his masterpiece, in my opinion. And and this is the biggest budget he's ever really handed.
Yep.
The big studio movie, big budget.
Yep.
Or at least a healthy budget. But, E.T. is a story about an alien that's for the masses, and The Thing is an alien, with loads of street cred.
Yep. My friend, by the way, one of my friends has spent a couple of seasons at the South Pole Station, and he says they do, in fact, all get together and watch The Thing.
Oh, my God.
At the South Pole Station every year.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about is also sci-fi, and I kind of mentioned this. I want to talk about Tron, but I want to talk about the entire look of Tron.
It's cool.
I don't know who to credit, so I'm just going to credit the entire creative team of Tron.
Yeah.
I will admit this is not a movie I can engage with as much as the other two movies that I listed above, The Thing and Blade Runner. I just think the look of this movie is something that we had never seen before, and I still really dig. I think that the two sequels and the Disney World ride have kind of revised and smoothed out this look.
Yeah, but I still like the way the sequels look.
I think they still look cool, but it's really standing on the shoulders of this. I just think that I'm old enough to remember, as are you, Tron as toys, the arcade game, and I think the aesthetic of Tron is just incredible, and it's like something we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And doing the Disney World ride, which my kids and I both
I've not
loved.
done it. Yeah.
If you're in Disney World,
do
the Tron ride.
Yeah.
It's the most immersive ride because you're on a light cycle and you're going through it and you're hearing the.
Do you remember the light cycle game that was in arcades?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's so. Yeah, I just think that the look of Tron is. I just love it when you're seeing something I've never seen before. Now, all the movies that...
Revolutionary, I would say.
There's a book that I mentioned before by Chris Nashawati. I think it's called The Future Is Now. That covers all three movies I just talked about. Actually, including E.T., Conan the Barbarian. You mentioned Star Trek 2. It covers that.
Yep.
It covers 8 movies that came out in the summer of 82
Wow.
that were sci-fi or fantasy stalwarts. Have you read this book?
No.
You've got to read this book. It's incredible. It's by Chris Nashawati. He used to write for Entertainment Weekly, and he wrote a great book about Caddyshack. And we've discussed, I think between us, you and I have talked about 6 of the 8 movies, maybe even 7, both nominated or not. So Scott, where can people find you if they want to find you? You have any socials you want to plug?
Gosh, should I?
Coming up? I mean, you can if you want to, but you also don't have to.
Yeah, I can't honestly. I work for a major YouTube channel right now, but it's not my YouTube channel. I work for a much bigger YouTube star. I have a blog that I wrote about Hollywood for many years called Hollywood Sapien. You can look up that. But I haven't added a lot of new content lately. But I will say it is still viewed and reviewed a lot. And I think the most popular thing I ever wrote was a calculation of how many actors there are in Hollywood. Which are not figures that SAG-AFTRA will ever release or anything like that, and how many of them work.
Interesting.
So I think that was it. How many calculating? Anyway, so that's that. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been great.
Yeah.
So you can find me on Letterboxd, Edward Cloud. You can find me on Vimeo. You can find me Script Revolution. I now have if you want to send questions, you can send questions to hindsightingquestions@gmail.com. Scott, thank you again for coming in. That was an incredible...
Yeah, it was great. This was so much fun.
That's our show. Next episode, Jordan Roeder and I discuss the best picture of 1983, Terms of Endearment. Till then, looking forward to looking back.